Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, I'm Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Brian Drucks. Hi, Brian.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
All is good on this beautiful summer day in New Jersey.
That's great. Yes, it's definitely a beautiful summer day. And we're going to talk about a topic that is it's top of mind of so many entrepreneurs, which is basically getting good people to work for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you definitely have experience with that, and you created a great solution, and we're going to talk about that. So first of all, I will read your bio, so it's a little bit more formal.
Okay. Excellent.
So you went from stage to the boardroom, so starting out in the music business.
Yep.
Doing soundtracks for films and playing stages with some recognizable name. Well, I would have to ask you who, but let's see. Okay, so Brian, you moved your family construction business before. You moved into the family construction business before starting your own, Drucks Inc.
Okay.
And Drucks Inc. is now one of the most respected commercial painting firms in the tri-state area. Which means, for those of you that don't know what a tri-state area, that is New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut.
Yeah.
On that side, because we also, from the Pacific Northwest, you also can have the tri-state area. So that's specifically on the East Coast. And you also started many software companies. And your latest one is Where Trades Go, which is, I'm very interested to find out about it. And this is the app that acts like a dating site for construction workers. How amazing. Okay. So Brian, what can you add? Tell us a little bit about your story and how did you get from the music business to the construction business?
So, I think my story will not only kind of give you insight to who I am, but will share how recruiting has changed. And, on one hand, how it's changed, and on another hand, how it has not changed. So I am 4 generations in this business. And when I was young, I swore that I would never come into the family business because I wanted to be a musician. And my father said that he would support me in my musical endeavors if I went to work with my grandfather on the summer vacations and on the weekends, on Christmas break, to learn a trade. Because if you hit rough times, having a trade under your belt is a job that you can find work anywhere in the country. So reluctantly, I agreed to learn a trade. And from the time I was 14 until I graduated high school, every summer vacation, I worked for my family's business and learned the trade. And then I went off to music school, Berklee School of Music in Boston. And I was there for 1 semester and decided this wasn't for me. I put my band together and we hit the road, came back to New York City, started playing all the clubs in New York City. And although my personal band never made it, the friends of mine and the other guys I used to play with, they all made it. Maybe you heard of Bon Jovi. He's one of the guys that we used to play with when we were young.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
It's from Bruce Springsteen's band. And as a matter of fact, some of my closest friends and bandmates now are still playing with all those guys. So the world has changed, and it hasn't changed. And then I don't know where the transition from playing the guitar to climbing up a ladder took place. It was slow, but it probably had to do with being tired of being broke. And I remember, every morning my father would get up to go to work. And this is when I was 19 and 20, so I was still living at home. And when my father would get up to go to work, I'd be just about coming home from playing the clubs. So there was a friction. He was like, "What are you doing with your life?" And then my grandfather called and said, "Come back into the business. You can make your own schedule. You can work whenever you want. If your band's playing, you can, do what you want." So that's how I got back into construction. And little by little, I started playing less music and more construction. And in 1996, I broke off and started my own business. And like anybody who starts your own business, you are an expert in the business and what you do, whatever the trade. I think it's the E-Myth, as it's called, and you know nothing about the business side of it. So through the School of Hard Knocks and joining trade associations, I slowly started learning about business, and you know, had my highs, had my real lows, and then you know, I was even talking about with my wife this morning, because I don't remember how bad times were. And she remembers. And she said, "Do you remember how bad it was when we were just dating?" And I said, I guess I blanked all that out. But fast forward, you know, now my painting company is, you know, a very nice sized painting company. We paint Giant Stadium. We paint that new mall that's by the Giant Stadium, which is probably the second biggest mall in the country. We paint million
Wow.
square foot warehouses. And about 20 years ago, I decided to get also into the software business. And the software that I started was based on my need for understanding pricing for a service-based business. So I created a software product called Your Cost Center, and that was my first software company. And basically, it is a service that analyzed your cost structure. So what you paid your employees, the payroll taxes, the workers' comp, the liabilities, vacations, health insurance, and then all your overhead. And at the end of this questionnaire that the software site created, it calculated what you need to charge for your unique service and business model. And it was pretty successful. All the trade associations bought licenses. And then I moved on to a couple of other software companies. But what I realized, and I'm also a trustee on a union, the painters union, the IUPAT, and I deal with the apprentices and health and welfare. And it seems that it doesn't make a difference if you're a small entrepreneur, if you're a medium-sized company, if you're large, if you're a union, everybody has the same argument at the end of the day. One is cash flow, and the other one is finding people.
Right.
And when I talked about when I came into my family's business, that is a model that's still there and it's still very successful. If I think about a lot of my friends who have kids that are graduating college, if they don't have very specialized degrees, meaning they don't have a banking degree or a law degree or want to go into medicine, a lot of them end up going into their family's business. And in construction, we are finding that A, we don't want necessarily our kids to go into construction because it was a very hard way to make a living. And B, a lot of kids today, they just don't want to go into construction. So the construction field in general is having a real hard time replacing the generation, the baby boomers that are the tail end of them are just about to retire. I mean, I was on a conference call this morning with a trade association that said that their average age is 62. And these people are, you know, they're set for retirement. So who's replacing them?
Well, Brian, you know, this is definitely something that I've seen a lot because we work with a lot of the trades. And what we do is we document their processes and procedures, and we create the training material because a lot of them, what they see is that they can hire people that are, you know, fit for the culture, or they want to work, they are willing, they have some experience, but they will need to train them in that particular trade in order to, or even if they have training in that trade, right, they're not going to replace any trade schools, but still train them in the way that business should be done or the way that they should execute according to what a business like, I mean, according to the business way of doing things, right? So that is definitely, you know, we see more need for the training because when you are hiring people that maybe do not have that much of the experience, you have to train them yourself because you have to get good people, however you can find them.
You know, there's three schools of thought when it comes to hiring and onboarding employees. One is you just give them a set of tools and they figure it out themselves. And there's a good number of people that are doing that, and it's kind of killing the quality of craftsmanship that we are used to. The second one is companies that do it themselves, and they go from being no training plans at all to your point, very sophisticated plans. And then the third option is through an apprenticeship program or a trade school or some of those. And so how do you get the people in the door?
Yeah, and also to your point, like this is like, number one, I definitely don't recommend, but number 2 and 3 can be combined because you still get them. It's better to have them trained in their trade for sure, and then you take your specialized program to get them up to the level of what you want to deliver and how you want to deliver.
Exactly. And even the people that come out of trade schools for us, what they've shown us is commitment. And if I can put, in an ad, I'm looking for, moral, ethical, committed people. Everything else we can train. Those characteristics, I can't instill it to you. Most people are just born with them. So,
right.
Yeah. So it's a challenge. So, with my software background, and I had a discussion at the gym this morning about, how you see a problem, how you kind of get the creative idea. Oh, I think I can come up with a solution. How you put that solution down on a piece of paper and articulate it, and then take that piece of paper and then take it to the next step and the next step and the next step. And I always think about when they make movies, they have these, but they draw out, I forgot the name of it, but they draw out all the scenes on paper. Probably not on paper anymore, but they draw out all the scenes, and then they talk about the scenes, and they talk about the angles, and they talk about the shooting before they get anywhere near a set. And it's the same thing when I design my software packages. First of all, it's usually either a piece of paper or now everything is on my Remarkable pad. But I come up with the what is the problem, and what are the possible solutions, and then every possible solution has an A, B, and then that A, B, if you go A, there's probably A, B, C, D, 1,000 alternates on that one, and the same thing with the B. And then I keep plotting it out on paper. If you saw what my desk looks like, you would see. And then eventually you narrow it down and you narrow it down and you funnel and you come up with, okay, I think I've got the concept. I think I've got the solution. And now how are we going to bring that to market? So, and then bring it to market, then, how are you going to make it successful? And
right. So let me ask you a question, like what problem you identified? I mean, you mentioned it a little bit. Let's touch on it a little bit more. So where trades go, it's basically, like you said, it's like a dating software for construction workers, right? So it matches a company with a worker.
Correct.
So the problem you were trying to solve is basically, how would you state it? Like, what was the problem you were trying to solve?
Where do you find workers?
Good. So how do you solve it now?
How do you solve? So, back when I was in the business, either you came in through your family or you had friends in high school. Everybody, the trades were a very, normal thing that for people to go into. But nowadays, we are so segmented and so fragmented in everything that we do that there is no local hardware store that you would bump into people that potentially would be in construction. There is no general public education for the trades. There are secondary schools that are outside of your normal school framework. But in our area, when I was young, the trades were part of your school. So you could take auto shop, you could take woodworking, you could take electrical, all in your same high school. That doesn't exist anymore. Now they've broken them out into separate trade schools. Generally, you would know all the kids that you were graduating in high school with, and those who didn't go to college would generally go into the trades. So since that doesn't exist anymore, and there are not too many brick and mortar stores anymore that you could potentially bump into people, it's become a real challenge. But I'll give you an example. There are 1.2 million accounts that a major paint manufacturer has for all their retail outlets. So if out of the 1.2 million accounts, Each one of those accounts had 2 to 3 employees. You're talking about 3 to 4 million painters that are in the United States that are available if you're looking for. The IUPAT, which is the Painters Union, which is the highest level of pay, highest level of benefits, only has 35,000 painters in it. And we say we can't find painters. Well, is it that we can't find painters, or we don't know where to look for them anymore?
Right.
And that's back to that fragmentation. You know, there's probably 10 websites that address recruiting. If you go on Facebook, there are probably 200 groups in your own town that are associated with whatever you want: dog lovers, dog walkers, carpenters, moms of the town. And so that's too fragmented. Everything is so fragmented. How do you find one place, for my circumstances, where trades go? And that's why we called it that. We didn't call it, you know, funky names like Uber or Zillow. We got old school and said, we want to be the place where trades go to find jobs, to find workers, to find education. That old school kind of one location, the equivalent of your local hardware store, brick and mortar.
Wow. So how does it work?
So basically, you know, it's funny. You never know where inspiration is going to come from. So I knew that there was this challenge to find workers. My wife and I moved into a new town 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and it's a walking town, meaning that it's called Morristown, New Jersey, and we've never lived in a walking town. So from within a block from our house, we can walk to the restaurants, we can walk to the bars, I can walk to the gym, supermarket. Total life change.
Amazing.
And now the kids are grown and they're out of the house. My wife and I have all this free time. So every night we would walk into town, and we started seeing these groups of people, and they all knew each other, no matter which restaurant we were. And they were all about our age. And my wife and I, how do these people all know each other? Well, it turns out most of them were single, and they were all on these dating apps. And I started saying, this is not construction workers, but man, if construction workers had this and they would all know each other, forgetting about dates, just to find opportunities. So that was really the inspiration for the concept of, and why I call it a dating app for construction workers. So we use the same concept about a profile and a tradesperson in 28 different trades, from plumbers to electricians to bricklayers, masons. They create a unique profile. And it doesn't make a difference if you're new to the trade, you're very experienced, you're close to the end of your career, your profile is unique to you. And then if a construction company creates a job opportunity, their job opportunity is unique to them. Their zip code, their skills that they need for that particular company. And recruiting today is broken. And the reason why I say it's broken, it's using the same model, upgraded a little bit with technology, but the same model. You post an ad, somebody sees the ad, they send their resume in, the owner of the company, their human resource department, goes through 2,000 resumes, of which maybe 1% have anything to do with the job requirement that you put out there. They've killed all this time looking at the resumes. They've got people who lied on their resumes. They got people who inflated their resumes. The process and the time and the money that goes into that is just crazy. But in these dating apps, you see this profile, and if you like it, you swipe one way, and if you don't like it, you swipe the other way. And then the other person has the same opportunity. And only if you both are interested does the match actually happen. And then it's up to you, two individuals, to make the magic that can make a relationship. And that's what our app does. Tradesperson creates the profile, job seeker, the job opportunity creates that. And only if all the pieces match, zip codes, skills, certifications, if they match, do we introduce you to each other. And then we remove ourselves from the picture. So we are not a gig worker scenario. We're not a temp agency. We're an old school matchmaker.
Wow. That's incredible. You know, that is definitely looking at where people hang out, like how do you actually, what are the communication lines that people are on, and basically creating those communication lines so people can communicate, because it's still the same concept of you want to find somebody that matches, that the profile matches, that you want them to work for you, etc. But now you were able to go somewhere and get them, but now you can't. So you use that electronic mean to do that, which I think it's very, very, it's brilliant.
Thank you. The initial feedback has been wonderful on it. And the thing that is interesting about construction is that it's ever changing. So meaning the market for residential construction during COVID was out of control because everybody was working on their houses and nobody was in offices. So the commercial sector died down. And, right now, the commercial sector is still not great, but the multifamily, condos with retail on the first floor, that's booming in the New Jersey area. Warehouses are booming in the New Jersey area. And so the job opportunities are ever changing. Sometimes you have to move to where the jobs are. Sometimes the jobs are in your neck of the woods. Sometimes you need a separate set of skills. Sometimes you can be in a scenario like we are in the summer where everything is exterior work. And then you find out you're going to get a week of rain. And now you just lost a week of work because of the rain. Well, with our app, just like with Uber, you can turn it on. You can say, I need work for a week. And some guy, he's not looking to hire any additional guys for his company. They're very happy with the staff they have. They just have one project they can use an extra body on for a week. And that opportunity can be aligned via our app. So it not only does careers, but it also does short-term scenarios. You could be a snowbird where you're spending your winters in warmer weather, or you're visiting your family in another state. You could be short on funds. You could turn the app on and just change the zip code, and the app will connect you with a job opportunity in that particular state or that particular location. So there's lots of different uses for it.
That's really well said. So, Brian, question. You've been doing it for so many years. Share with the listeners some of your successful actions, successful or best practices on how do you see training works in the trades? Like, what are some of, let's say you hire somebody, they find you through the app, you find somebody through your app, you bring them on. What are some best practices for onboarding a new employee?
So I'll share with the experience that I've had with my painting company. Yeah. So we hire out of a union hall. So they come to us either as journeymen or as apprentices. Apprentices are somebody who goes through a 4-year training process. And the way I learned was working side by side with family members who took the time to invest in me as a mentor. And that goes from learning the trades to my success in business. If it wasn't for the mentors in my life, I would not be here. It's not my education. I did not go to college. I have taken lots of adult education courses at some very nice schools through an organization called EO. So it's given me opportunities that I never would have had. But I never would have even came to EO if it wasn't for the people, the mentors in my life who taught me about the opportunities. So
and a big shout out to EO, to Entrepreneur Organization, because that's where we met. So we are both members of it. So definitely, I agree, a lot of opportunities there.
So when you talk about bringing somebody on board, you bring them on with all the enthusiasm from both your side and their side. And you might give them all the training manuals, but then you put them in the field. And the people that they're working with were never trained to be mentors. They don't know how to be mentors. They don't know how to be teachers. You hired them. It's like a salesperson that you promote, to sales manager, and they have no skills in that.
It's spot on. It's spot on because, yes, you have to have a manual. You have to have processes and procedures in order to train them, but you have to also have a manual or processes and procedures for those that are mentors. And you have to mentor the mentors.
Yes.
And you have to make sure that the mentors know what they're doing. So give us some successful actions that you have seen that were successful for you, of how to be a mentor to somebody that is new in your company.
Absolutely. So I take my journeymen. Those are people that are fully skilled, been in the trades a long time. And I say to them, all right, we're going to give you a new apprentice. And 99.9% of the time, they're like, I don't want to work with anybody. They're just going to slow me down. And I was greeted with such friction that I decided I'm going to think about what I did to make my grandfather's life easy. He gave me all the crap work, schlepping the tools, all the things that he didn't want to do. But what he really allowed him to do was the things that made money. He could focus on talking to the client, upselling the client, doing all the things that his skill and his knowledge and his brain, and let me do the grunt work. So I explained to my journey people, this person is going to make your life easier. They're not going to take your job away. They're not going to slow you down, because if you learn to use them efficiently, they are going to make your life easier, which is going to make you more efficient, which is going to make you be able to produce even more. You know, I bet you if you ask any, couple or any successful business person or any family, what would be the best thing that you can have? And they would say a personal assistant, a family aide, somebody who is just there to do all the things either that you don't want to do, that you're not good at, that you don't want to focus on. And most of us don't have that opportunity in our real lives, right? So maybe some people can hire nannies for their kids. But so I told these people, they're the ones that are going to do all the things that slow you down, and think about what they are and list all those things, from carrying tools to getting fresh water to running to the store to get a supply that you forgot. Start listing them all. And when you have that list, you'll be able to say, well, this person is going to do all this for me. And all of a sudden, a little light goes off in their head. And within 1 month of implementing that in my company, we would take these teams that we now partnered up by an apprentice and a journeyman, and we say, all right, we need to take that apprentice and put them somewhere else. And they go, oh, no, you can't take that person away from me. They are making my life so easy. What ended up happening was they become the mentor that they never knew they were.
Right.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then how do you follow up on the success of that mentorship?
Well, for us, it's very easy. It becomes a mathematical equation. We look at the time spent and the hours spent on a job and what we call a blended rate. So when you take a journeyman's wage and you take an apprentice wage and you blend those two together, you get this new, average. And you watch the job cost on that particular job where these two were blended. It starts to, offset the cost that you budgeted the job, because these two people are working like a Simon and a Garfunkel. It's two singers whose voices blend perfectly together. And eventually, you just work in sync. And then that apprentice who came up, now not only are they skilled, but they saw the way they were mentored. And it is now instinctual in them. Oh, that's how I'm going to train the next person who is given to me. And those secrets are passed on, just like we do share experiences in NEO.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there's the check-in, they will also graduate to work by themselves at some point, and then you have to check on them, see how they're doing, continue probably the mentorship, maybe not as tight, but as time goes by, to make sure they're successful in the future also in what they do.
Yep. And you also find that there is in the pay scale, there is this point where this apprentice, this newbie, has become self-sufficient and wants to prove that they have the capabilities, and they actually do. And there's the delta between what you're charging for somebody who is really skilled at that and this person who's making their journey on their way up there. And in between is this delta where you make really good money off these people. And so that's a good motivator. And that delta can be used to bonuses to the mentor who taught that person. Any kind
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
company.
For sure. Wow, Brian, what a great conversation. So I know our listeners want to find out more about your software, where trades go. So how can they do that?
They can go to wheretradesgo.com. It's self-explanatory on the site. It addresses the workers, the tradespeople. It addresses subcontractors. So a tradesperson in a lot of their journeys decide they want to open up their own business. So once they switch over from tradesperson to a subcontractor who owns their own business, they can use our app to either find workers or find work. Because the third category is the contractors that are looking to hire either employees or subcontractors to do their work. And the latest thing that we're doing is we're working with trade associations, and that was all my meetings this morning, because these trade associations, they want members, they want educational opportunities, they want tools that their members can use. So they are starting to use our app as a benefit to their membership. We just started working with the New Jersey Department of Labor, and once that relationship is solidified and all the kinks are worked out, we're going to roll this across the country to all the departments of labor, because as soon as somebody goes on unemployment and they are in the trades, it could only be a month that they're on unemployment. Maybe their job is slow or seasonal, but the Department of Labor is going to tell them to use our app to find work. So it was a venue that was not accessible to a lot of companies. So that's something new that we're doing. And then, of course, trade schools, apprentice programs, and all those are using our app to find work for their graduates.
That's great. Wow. What a great conversation. What a great app. What a great service. So thank you so much, Brian. And again, we'll have all the links in the show notes so people can check it out. But if you're listening and right now you want to get on your phone, on your computer and check it out, wheretradesgo.com. And thank you so much, Brian, for being a guest.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.